Hey guys, welcome back to the Lit Mag Lab podcast. I'm Jazz Marie, aka Vevna Forrow. So previously on the podcast, I was giving you a tour of Knee Brace Press. Again, wanted to take the time to, cover a lit mag out there, or, there are presses as well that focus on, writing and art from those who have disabilities, or, write about that topic of, uh, living with a disability, right? And yeah, I think there are, again, some wonderful lit magazine journals out there that have distinct focuses. So wanted to take the time to cover that a little bit. And yeah, so just wanted to share at least one more, maybe others in the future. Totally. Yeah. So Wordgathering, yeah. Knee Brace Press on that past episode was not open, at the moment. So I wanted to share one that does have like an upcoming window that you guys should check out if you are eligible, of course. And I'll read through the guidelines, the usual, right? So Wordgathering, right? It is a journal of disability poetry and literature, as you can see on my screen, right? And yeah, I'm gonna go on their site. Typically, I go to the Chill Subs overview page, and we'll head over there in a bit. So yeah, so Wordgathering is a digital open access biannual journal of disability poetry, literature, and the arts with two interconnected purposes. First, they are dedicated to providing an accessible venue for featuring the work of emerging and well known writers and other creatives with disabilities, disabled writers and creatives. Second, they seek to make available and expand a searchable core of this work for interested readers with and without disabilities who are committed to disability poetry, literature, and the arts. And yeah, again, you may notice, right, they have their ISSN number. I do have a podcast episode covering, the importance of having an ISBN and the difference between that and an ISSN number. So the application process, whether it be a print, online, or both, right, or one of those, right, to get an ISSN number, it's not too bad, right? So, yeah. So yeah, you can see here they are powered by WordPress. So this is a WordPress site. I'm gonna head over to their Chill Subs overview page real quick. So you can see they've been bookmarked 78 times thus far, and there's no fee to submit. It does state publishes reprints, but just keep in mind you always want to go to the website of the lit mag or journal or press and read the exceptions around that, because different lit mags state different things when it comes to like social media poetry. You posted things on a personal space and elsewhere. They have like conditions around that. So you just always want to read the site. If there's nothing further on that, that doesn't automatically mean they publish anything that's been, appeared elsewhere, right? There are certain things that are permitted, perhaps. Yeah. Nothing in response time or acceptance rate, and that could be part of the reason, that could be due to, right, again, maybe no one's gone in through the chill subs tracker quite yet to track their decisions or to enter that data that in. So that data, average, is collectively created, right? So yeah. Um, let's go to calls and see what's under there. So yeah, again, they do have an upcoming call, right? It says opens in 19 days for these, but I think you saw on the website, right, the open time. So I'll read that in a second here. But it looks like they have art calls, right? We have art, photography, audio, video. Again, there's no fee for any of these, right? Memoir, comics, general, prose, poetry, literary, right? Memoir, interview, review. So yeah, they have a very diverse publication accepting a lot of different kinds of, writing and art, it appears. And yeah, so we're gonna go on their site because I believe, right, that's where we'll find it. So yeah, there actually are. If you go in here, right, submissions track though that have been tracked through Chill Subs. So accepted 6, rejected 2, withdrawn 1. So I think on here, that's interesting. So yeah, there's no editor reported data in here, right? But there are usually I think we see those side by side, right? Anything Chill Subs averages in there and stuff. I'm not sure if it happens after a certain number get tracked in there when it populates, like the editor the verse, the editor reported data, that's a manual entry, but the Chill Subs tracked averages, right? Anyways, you can see it on this tab. So it's saying, now this may not be entirely accurate, right? The more that reported, right, then that acceptance rate changes, right? Even I've shown you on my own lit mag, right, Dippity, it's showing a rather high acceptance rate, but ours is actually, like 34%, right? If we haven't had every single person who's ever submitted to us since 2022 enter in data through Chill Subs. So yeah, so that may not be entirely accurate, but the more that enter it, that average changes, right? The acceptance rate. So yeah, it is showing average response time. Most are reported 68 days, fastest response time 2 days. So there is data in here, and yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'll share more of the masthead and go into the website in a bit here. They do have a duotrope listing too. And yeah, so again, you have to be eligible, right? Submissions are restricted to people with disabilities or those writing about disability. That's what duotrope is noted here. And it says there's an unknown AI policy, but for the most part, over 90% of the lit magazine journals I know in existence do not accept anything, AI related, right? So you just want to be mindful about that, even though it says that on Duotrope. Or else we're always read on the website of Lit Mag Journal. And if you're ever not sure about something again, always just ask the Lit Mag Journal Press, right? So again, the outline of all of their calls, right, and details are here on Duotrope. So if it's not on Chill Subs, good place to reference is Duotrope. But regardless of that, I always typically again stick to the website and compare, a little bit, just to make sure. So yeah, and yeah, so you can see visual art, poetry, nonfiction, fiction, right? So yeah, and yeah, so that's pretty much it on the duotrope. There isn't actually an interview that the editor in chief did back in it looks like here October 2025 on the 26th. So that's actually fairly recent. I mean, within the past, like last year, um, yeah. So I always do like reading these. I've quoted off some interviews and stuff, but you can read through this if you're interested. If you typically type like interview and the lit mag or journal and then duotrope, right, and the name of the lit mag and duotrope interview, you'll find these two. I think they're also linked with the publication, if I recall right. But yeah, so these are really insightful too if you're submitting to a place. You can learn more about the publication, what they're looking for, and I think they're very helpful, the interviews. And yeah, I haven't done one myself yet or anything like that, but I've had some Q&As from others, and other things, yeah, in general on the Lit Mag world. But yeah, so you totally could look at that or check it out sometime if you're interested. So yeah, let's head over to the Wordgathering website, right? So Wordgathering is published biannually. The reading period for the summer 2026 issue is March 1st, 2026 to May 1st, 2026. So that's coming up here, guys. So if you are eligible, right, totally check it out. Mark your calendars. Might be a place to check out and submit. I'm going to cover it a little bit more, but, you can check out further. I'm trying to shorten these episodes down. We'll see how well I do, but I do like to read the guidelines through and over for you guys too. So yeah, let's see submission guidelines here. Yeah. So you can see how they have it laid out, right? They have a very, clean website. Everything's like organized, right? That's the most important part, right? That everything's easy to find and very detailed in like everything that they accept, when their windows are, and the types of, submissions they intake. So they reiterate, what they focus on. And yeah, so you can see here, right, their open reading period review windows, again, March 1st to May 1st for the summer issue and September 1st to November 1st for the winter issue, right? So they have regular windows, yeah. And yeah, it looks like they are intaking submissions through email. And yeah, so submissions again are free, right? No cost at all. And yeah, there's no payment, but it's free to submit to them. So that's awesome. And yeah, it says, while they are deeply committed to poetry, Wordgathering also accepts short essays and short works of creative nonfiction, CNF, flash memoir, fiction, excerpts, and drama, as well as photography, as well as art, photography, comics, short videos, music, and suggested books for potential review. And yeah, they also publish manifestos, interviews, and responses, and are open to considering other genres. And yeah, responses provide writers and artists with the opportunity to address one another, reflecting on prior Wordgathering publications. And they have a maximum of 2 prose pieces, including short essays, creative nonfiction, flash memoir, fiction excerpts, drama, written manifestos, book reviews, interviews, and responses. So yeah, a maximum of 5 poems may be submitted during each reading period. A maximum of 5 pieces of multimedia content, including art, photography, short videos, comics, music / audio content, multimedia manifestos may be submitted during each reading period. So yeah, that's nice that they have that. So two prose pieces, right, are permitted, right, and including right the short stories and flash and creative nonfiction. Then they have five poems permitted, right, five pieces of multimedia. Um, and stating here, you're welcome to submit work in prose, poetry, and or multimedia content that is in one, two, or three genres or creative areas during each submission review window, providing you do not exceed the maximum number of submissions permitted in each individual genre as outlined. And yeah, so I won't read every single thing through, but you can see it on my screen again. Out on, I usually say this earlier, but on YouTube, Spotify, elsewhere, even Substack, other places that plugged in the video screen share, right? If you're listening to this, and it looks like began publishing work under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 international license in 2020 of June. So they're saying that allows readers to view, access, download, and share the work with proper attribution, but nothing else without permission of the creator, and all other rights remain with the creator. So they have an FAQ on that, on fair use. And, if you have any questions about what that really entails further, right, you could contact them. But yeah, so sometimes we see lit magazine journals mention, things about that, reshare permissions and stuff of that nature. So we want to be mindful about that. And yeah, I know some lit mags I've seen, on the series I've covered, right? They reshare like work from other poets and stuff. And it's always important, right, to give attribution and credit, right? And stuff like that, right? So yeah, when you're doing a reshare or, things of that nature. For the most part, in the writing community, arts community, everyone believes, right, writing and art should be shared. But I think it's so important to credit anyone again, that gave you inspo or that you're resharing or anything of that nature, right? It's so important to do that. You want to be very mindful about, lit mags, journals, publications, policies around that, and even authors, right? Work. So, yeah. So, yeah, they have, again, different formats, which they, set work, right? And, yeah. So they go into you know yeah, different kinds of they state here, right, since there are many different kinds, varied experiences of physical, cognitive, intellectual, emotional, psychological, reading, and other disabilities, they adopt a cross disabilities perspective in their publication, philosophy, and practices, right? That includes deaf, disabled, crip, mad, chronically ill, spoony sick, and neurodivergent, including autistic writers and creative artists, are especially encouraged to submit their work for publication consideration. They support and welcome the creative work of BIPOC, LGBTQIA2S+, young, elder, and working class writers and artists, and those who are affected by carceral systems. So yeah, they don't tolerate any hate speech or oppressive language or anything like that. So that's pretty typical of most lit magazine journals, right? Nothing that is offensive or attacking in nature, right? And yeah, so they're stating here, right? Wordgathering is unlikely to publish work that is intended primarily to be inspirational, rehabilitative, or therapeutic. Work about overcoming disability is also unlikely to be published. So, yeah, word gathering, I mentioned that word, I think, on the past episode in terms of overcoming when I was talking about like the darkness theme. And that was pertaining more so I'm saying like there are things we can do, right? I meant writing and art that help us take our mind off the pain, right? Or that we're going through physically, or things we do to that help us get through the day, right? And things like that. So it's something, when you have like any physical condition in your body, whether someone has a definitive diagnosis or not, or a lot of people also get wrongly denied disability, and things of that nature. And it's and generally have issues going on, but maybe there's no definitive diagnosis, or there's even misdiagnosis, right? And yeah, it's something you live with day to day, right? And so I like actually that word gathering is stating this, that that they're actually saying that they aren't looking for inspirational work or rehabilitative or therapeutic work. While poetry can be considered therapeutic and things of that nature, or art or in general, I think it's important to be very raw and honest about like some of the what we're going through, or as human beings, or anyone has a disability. I have members of my family who are disabled, right? I also have things going off my body, as I shared, right, the past couple episodes, some very, heartbreaking things people have said to me while going through some very tough things. But yeah, I think it's important to really highlight, the raw nature of work and to not shy away from that, right? Not everything in the world. I mentioned this on Hummingbird Blink actually. I think not everything in the world is about, sunny side up eggs and, fluffy pancakes and waffles, right? It's important to cover really raw and honest, like how tough some things are, right? That we deal with in the world, right? And to not, shy away from that, right? And I think that's great that they state that, right? That their focus more geared towards, their publication, right, is not intended to be on, highlighting overcoming disability. So yeah, I really like this. I think, that they state that, right? Even Knee Brace Press, if you go on their social media feed and stuff, I mentioned this, right? I think I read one of their poems. I can't remember. I may have said this in the podcast if you missed it, but it was like someone had this poem that was titled through Knee Brace Press that says, like, why don't you try yoga? Or why don't you try this? People suggesting things to you. Even people have suggested to me, like, why don't you try physical therapy, right? And that some conditions are rather serious and rather complex, and people are suggesting things to you that maybe your body physically can't do, and things like that. And it's kind of painful, right? Absolutely. But yeah, you can't push yourselves to things you can't do, right? With your, we all have as the body undergoes changes and things like that, or things, we deal with, there's no you everyone body has like a limit, right? You can't push yourself too hard, and you can't, people who, right, I discussed in the other episodes. So yeah, anyways, yeah, so I think that's great that they state that and clarify what they're looking for a bit further, in terms of work. And they prefer considering previously unpublished work, but it says if you send them previously published work, you will be required to confirm that you've retained the rights to publish your work with Wordgathering. And yeah, so that's what they're saying here. They do have ongoing, and above that, I sort of skipped over that accidentally. So yeah, above this says their ongoing special features Reading Loop and Gatherer's blog are by invitation only. Reading Loop is a closed reading or discussion by contributor. Gatherer's blog provides emergent as well as a seasoned writers with opportunities to reflect upon aspects of their own writing processes. So that's cool, yeah. And it states here, right, they prefer considering previously unpublished work, but if you do send them previously published work, you will just be required to confirm that you've retained the rights to republish your work with Wordgathering. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can send them, right, an email, right, with rights and permissions in the title. They do accept simultaneous submissions, but let them know if your work has been accepted elsewhere. And yeah, if you wish for your work accepted elsewhere to remain in the reviews queue, they will accommodate your request as long as you confirm you have retained rights to reprint the work, right? um yeah, your rights to print your work. So yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it. They cover their contact, address, the files and formats, right? Textual, typical Word doc, Arrow Times New Roman, put multiple poems in one file, two-dimensional visual arts, including photography and comics, JPEG or PNG, video, MP4, music and other MP3, right? And you're also welcome to send like a link to a private online upload of the full submission, like a private YouTube channel link. Yeah, if you include two-dimensional visual arts, video, music, or other audio as an accompaniment to any textual submissions, they have guidelines on that. So poets with disabilities / disabled poets are welcome to submit up to 5 poems again. It says a maximum of 75 lines each on any topic or theme during each reading period. And again, I covered their reading periods again, so I won't cover it again. But yeah, they do have a maximum of 75 lines each, right? So just keep that in mind. Yeah. Then they go into a little bit the formatting they're looking for. And yeah, so yeah, so again, poets are welcome to submit spoken word, slam, visual, image, informed, and video poetry, including American Sign Language and other sign languages. It says please refer to file formats above and guidelines, right? And yeah, and then they go into resources and file formats, right? Image and audio description resources. Let's click on that. I want to see where that goes. So yeah, I won't read all of this, but you can see it on my screens. I'm just scrolling through. Just be mindful of, like, their requirements and everything, the formatting that they're looking for, right? Yeah, so they do mention, right, wherever a piece is published, right? I mentioned a Substack even, they have WordPress, but sometimes you have to adjust the formatting of poems and write, and then have it, we've had to do that sometimes, like left align some poems or adjust things or do screenshots of some visual poetry, right? With through Dipty, right? And I mentioned that, but yeah, they just make a mention here, right, that they have WordSite press. They just make a mention here that WordPress sites parameters may need to be adjusted, to fit the WordPress site. The formatting maybe have to be a little bit to fit. Yeah. So again, short essays, creative nonfiction, CNF, flash memoir, fiction, excerpts, and drama, right? The maximum of 2 prose pieces, right? That includes what I just covered above, right? And yeah, so yeah, again, everything they're intaking, right, is through email. It's saying a maximum of 2,500 words, right, for short essays, creative nonfiction, excerpts, and drama. And flash memoirs should be a maximum of 1,000 words. All submissions should in some way contribute to disability literature, philosophical, and or through your personal experience as a writer of disability. And yeah, whenever possible, it says use MLA formatting. And yeah, they encourage, again, reading past work to get a feel for their publication. So in regards to art, photography, short video, comics, music slash audio content, right? They so yeah, word gathering, again, for each of these categories I'm reading off, right? Word gathering editors will ask artists and creators to confirm that they have a disability and or identify as, deaf, disabled, crip, mad, chronically ill, spoony, sick, or neurodivergent, including autistic in one or more ways. Non-disabled artists and writers, non-disabled artists and creators must submit work that relates in some way to disability. Yeah. So yeah. Each submission of art, photography, short video, comics, music, or audio must be accompanied by proposed descriptive text. And short video content must be closed captioned in English. Users should be able to turn off captions or on, and they do not accept automatic captioning. So um, yeah. So I think that is um, yeah, so I'm not sure what they mean by the confirmation. I've seen some lit magazine journals have some sign an agreement of some kind or a checkbox or um for other eligibility requirements too, but I'm not sure what it entails, their confirmation for that, but they do mention non-disabled artists and creators must work that relates in some way to disability, right? So yeah, so manifestos. So again, they allow a maximum of 2 written manifestos or 5 multimedia manifestos during each reading period. So a maximum of 2 written manifestos or 5 multimedia manifestos may be submitted during each reading period. And yeah, so again, I'm not going to read through every single thing. I'm skipping over some things, but always check the file formats and you have anything linked, right, tied to a category you're going to submit to. They do accept book reviews, so the reviews include, right, the poetry, fiction, memoir, drama written by disabled writers, as well as books and disability studies related to literature and the arts. Editors strongly recommend that the potential book reviewers read Wordgattering's previously published book reviews in order to understand their expectations and stylistic conventions, as well as the journal's orientation toward disability poetry, literature, arts, and culture. So, yeah. And again, word gathering is unlikely to review books that are intended primarily to be inspirational, rehabilitative, or therapeutic. Books about overcoming disability are also unlikely to be reviewed. So, yeah, again, they reiterate that. They have, a small editorial team and reviewers pool, it says here. They may include interviews and responses in the journal and welcome reader suggestions and contributions. So, I didn't read every single line there, but do always comb over, a bit further than what I read. I try to give a summary the best I can. Sometimes I do read word for word, because there are some details that, you absolutely don't want to miss. But yeah, they have, again, their ISSN, right? Their license that they're talking about. And yeah, so yeah, there are, different licenses even, out there, in the world, right? So if you're not familiar with like all of those licenses, do look at that. Yeah. Yeah, so their submission guidelines are very thorough, I would say. Only thing is, I think it's always a good idea. For the most part, a lot of online lit magazine journals do accept international submissions, but I just like specifying it because I think some are like, do you accept international, or not? That's a question I always have on some lit magazine journals, I think. So I did make a recommendation for some platforms to have that for indicating that or helping others too. So let's go to the masthead here, About Us masthead. And I'm horrible at name pronunciations. So editor in chief here currently is Diane R. Weiner. And I apologize, I completely mispronounced names, but I'll spell it out for you guys. Winer. Flash Memoir editors Daniel Simpson. Gatherers blog editor. I almost said Gather, guys. So there is a podcast episode where I cover Gather Lit Mag. You can listen back to it. But it's Gatherers blog editor Ona Gritz. Poetry editor Emily K. Michael, prose editor Sean J. Mahoney, and they have a special guest editor that they had in the past. They had a special guest editor for 3 years, it looks like, and yeah, assistant editors, right? Assistant book reviews editor, assistant editor Rachel A. Zubal Ruggeri, um, and assistant book reviews editor Kate Champlin. If I completely messed up all those names, I'm so sorry. They do have here founding emeritus editors, so listed here. Stuart Sanderson, Dana Hirsch, Yvette Green, and Denise March. And then they have the editor in chief from 2007 to 2019 was Michael Northern. And yeah, so yeah, Diane became editor in chief of Wordgathering in January 2020. So yeah, then there's the masthead bios. I typically can't read everyone's bios. Sometimes if they're bite sized, I will read it, but till you can see my screen. And yeah, it looks like Diane has a lot of cool works published, so I'll have to circle back and give those a read and check those out. Yeah, so totally, it's always awesome to read more and learn about others on the masthead team. So I do like seeing that, right? And yeah, so very cool. It's very organized, right? We can see everyone's name. The masthead's visible. Always good to see that. So yeah. So they have some other things on their site. I'm just gonna click around. I won't be able to read everything off for you guys, but yeah. So they have some projects here that they highlight, right? And yeah. So yeah, and I think some of these were mentioning Canada in here too. So yeah, you can read through that, but the disability future in the arts, I was just reading that a little bit, right? Yeah. It looks like they're mentioning a 3-year multi-project grant happened here, right? Or yeah, so this is a project here, and they go into a little bit, right? A series of 15 invited essays by disabled artists that were published in Wordgathering in 3 sections, 5 essays each, and sequences. Yeah, so that was back in 2020, right? And yeah, and then they have other ones linked out here. So yeah, you can totally check out more of this. I'm just clicking through so you guys can read, yeah, and see. They do have an FAQ page. They go into what is meant by open access here, and the license a little bit further, right? Um, yeah, and they go into, can anyone take my published work and update, change it, or otherwise amend it without my permission? And right, and this license, right, the attribution non-commercial no derivatives 4.0 international, so the attribution non-commercial no derivatives, license does not permit any adaptation, remixing, or changes without the creator's permission. Only reading and sharing the work unchanged with attribution are allowed. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Yeah. And yeah, and they go into fair use. So yeah, so yeah, that's great that they outline that. And yeah, so I won't go through all of the terms here and stuff. Most of us are aware of Creative Commons, and what that entails. But it's nice that they outline that. Not everyone knows, what that really entails. All the licenses and stuff. I myself have put some licensee things mentions in some parts of my work, even, you know, um, yeah, I always say, if anyone ever, does any spin-offs or inspiration for my work, right, that they just give attribution, right? I've mentioned that sometimes, or like inspo pieces. Totally. And yeah. So yeah, that's always so important, attribution. And there are a lot of different licenses in the world that exist. But I think yeah, some lit magazine journals we've seen in the FAQ sections, they'll mention like average response times and things like that in the FAQ. And yeah, but yeah, it's a very clear FAQ though, so yeah. Partnerships and events. Let's see what's under here. So yeah, again, disability future in the arts, right? They have other ones listed here, right? Numberless dreams, online writing workshops for teens with disabilities. They have an interdisciplinary disability dialogue series, spring 2022, and yeah, and the other ones here. So I won't read through all of these, but poetry, reading, and discussion with Torin A. Greathouse, The World on Fire, right? Uh, Ecology, Poetry and Disability Justice, and Intergenerational Performance and Discussion celebrating Criplet and Evening I'm so sorry, Anya Gritz. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced the name. That's Onagritz. And yeah, so yeah, so yeah, that's awesome that they mention some partnerships and events. Some lit magazine journals do have various partnerships or events they do or partake in, right? So that's cool that they do that. They do other things, so that's great to see. So you can see they have a section here, right? Current issue. So yeah, I'm just going to click through so you guys can see the sections here. So art from summer 2025 last year. Let's just click into one of these, right? So the Alpine Lookout, right, by KJ Hannah Greenberg, right? So yeah, that's what it looks like, right? It goes into the photograph, right, and how it was edited, right, and all of that. So very cool. So yeah, that's how they have it. And then let's go into book reviews. I'm just clicking on at least one example for you guys. So book reviews, I'll just click on the first ones for you guys. So yeah, you can see that's how they have it laid out. And yeah, so everything's very organized, right? And everything's hyperlinked. They have creative nonfiction, right? And yeah, and then it's linked out, right? And yeah, so it's always good to read examples of past, work that has, been published in the Lit Manga Journal. So I'm just clicking through so you guys can see. Yeah, so everything's linked out, right? And then we'll go to excerpts here and take a look. So yeah, and they do a good job of, stating, photography permissions and stuff. And yeah, so yeah, that's I just want to show you the layout of their site a little bit. So we did excerpts. Let's do fiction. I'm just clicking on the first one for you guys so you can see. So yeah, they typically have that, and then at the bottom right, always about the author. So yeah, this layout is yeah, it's very clean. It's easy to access, so that's important. So yeah, and then flash memoir. I'm just clicking into these for you guys so we can see. Yeah, Gather's blog. So yeah, again, this is an invited feature, right? That they have. So yeah, just looking at the different pages they have, interviews, right? So I think it's cool when lit magazine journals do interviews with others, right? It's a lot of fun. I do Q&As, I do interviews and text based ones. They are very fun. You can learn more about others and ask different questions, and it's pretty cool. And yeah, you can learn more about others and what their experiences are in their life and things like that through interviews, of course. And that is a great way, right, to maybe connect with others, learn more about others in the community. And yeah, so I think these interviews are great that they do. Yeah, so then we have poetry, right? And yeah, I'm just clicking on one of these, right? So yeah, they have, you can see audio embedded here, right? And then the poem, right? And yeah. So yeah, you can listen to poems read by the author. I do like hearing, authors read and voices to work, right? I think that's nice when you're able to hear that. So we don't do that my lit mag like on our site itself, but we do have other right podcast audio and stuff like that, reading events and things of that nature, and some spoken word, multimedia publications and stuff. But yeah, so I think that's great that they did that, that they plug in, the audio. And yeah, they also have a search in the upper right, so that's great to see. The reading loop. And yeah, so yeah, so then they have right the audio plugged in here. And yeah, you can see yeah, there's a poem here. And yes, so again, reading loop is a closed reading or discussion by an invited contributor. And yeah, so covered all the pages. I just want to click in to show you guys. Obviously, you should, if you're going to submit to Word Gathering and are eligible, to submit to them, and the focus is disability again. So do read some. So do totally read past work that was published. So do read past work that was published, and yeah, so they have an issues section at the top here, right? And it's by year, it looks like, right? So volume 19 was 2025, 2026, right? That is right here, right? And they go into some notes here on and pieces, and yeah. Sometimes or oftentimes I should say, editors have letters, right? And on coverage on the issues. So I wonder what the first, and then they have legacy issues here. Yeah. So we sort of did this with Dipty, yeah, so I sectioned off our legacy issues a little bit. So typically with lit mags and journals, right, or even like I mentioned with Dippity, right, so sometimes changes happen to a lit mag or journal, and the older issues or format or style goes away, right, and then those could essentially become legacy issues, right, whenever a publication maybe undergoes changes or restructuring, right, it maybe the future issues, right, are from a different focal point, or yeah, so the legacy issues, right, or maybe from a different time, or when the publication had a different structure behind it, right? And so it's saying the legacy issues of word gathering that follow are from before Syracuse University's Office of Interdisciplinary Programs and Outreach at the Burden Blatt Institute, BBI, and Syracuse University Libraries assumed publication in December 2019. So the legacy pages are presented in their original HTML until they can be properly transitioned to their current site. So yeah, it says that some things may have happened to the legacy issues out of their control. So yeah, they have their legacy issues here. Let's just click in one of these. I want to see what it looks like. So yeah, you can see this is an archive page, right? That they had, right? They have the poetry essays, right? Book reviews, everything laid out here, right, from the past. Yeah, so that's cool, right, that they did this, right? So they have their archive. So yeah, it looks like it, yeah, just a different portion, their site that they did like a separate pages for the legacy parts, right? So yeah, I've seen some lit magazine journals what they do, right, for legacy issues. Some do anthologies around, work from the past, or they do it like this, or an archive section of some kind, or as we saw with Fine Print Press, right, they actually use the Internet Archive, right, for those out of print issues that they did, right, and things like that. So yeah, that's great that they have all of the issues from the past here. They even have volume one from 2007. It looks like yeah, March 2007. Let's click into that. Yeah, so I think that's always cool that you can look back at the past and see, work from way, way back. Yeah, it's great to be able to read those pieces from, way, way back in the past. So yeah, we're gonna go back here. I think I covered everything on their site. Issues. They have a contact us page, right? So yeah, just as their details. They do have some social media accounts, Blue Sky, Facebook, right? Um, yeah, they could have other ones too. I'm not sure. Sometimes I come across other social media channels Litmegs have, but um, yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think I covered everything with word gathering. So yeah, again, don't forget to check out their upcoming reading period for summer 2026, right? March 1st through May 1st, 2026. Yeah, that's the next upcoming window. So mark your calendars, guys. And yeah, so again, I wanted to take the time to cover a couple lit mag journals that focus on disability. There are lists out there if you do some searching that others have put together on lit magazine journals, that accept work from poets that are disabled or write about, disability, or, have conditions, or maybe no diagnosis or things of that nature, right? So yeah, I love seeing that, and I think they do a good job of, outlining their guidelines. They're very detailed. The FAQ page. So yeah, I didn't click into, a bunch of poetry pieces or, all the pieces on the site or anything like that. So do take the time to, check out Word Gathering again and read it over, the past issues. And, you saw they have it outlined, right? On this podcast, I've showed you a couple different structures of, various lit mags and presses, right? On how they have everything laid out. So yeah, this is a WordPress based site. And yeah, so yeah, I just wanted again to cover, lit magazine journals that, at least a couple, right? I may cover more in the future, we'll see, but that focus on disability or, again, poets that, write about disability even, or those maybe have a condition they have, or no diagnosis even, or things of that nature, right? Yeah, so I think it is awesome that places like Word Gathering exist and eBrace Press, several others, right? If you do a search, right, there's lists of lit magazine journals that accept work specifically geared towards disability, right? And yeah, so this is definitely one that caught my eye because they've been around, for 19 years, so they've been around a very very long time. No fee to submit, so do check it out further, and yeah, and give them a follow on their other channels, right, if you can, or of course you could always bookmark them on Chill Subs. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's Word Gathering. I just wanted to give you a tour and click through because I think they have been around, almost 2 decades now, right? So they've been a pretty long-standing online publication. So yeah, I don't really have anything further to say. Just a couple things with the FAQ, I think, on the page, maybe, like response times, like when will others hear back typically, or and is are they open to international submissions, and things like that. Sometimes I think for the most part, again, a lot of lit magazine journals do accept that, online, but it's not always evident. I've seen some that actually do have restrictions around that, so it's always a good idea to double check that. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, so check out their site further, give the past issues a read. Again, they have like their archives, so you can read way, way back even. That's awesome, on the legacy issues. So yeah, look at that, 2007. So yeah, so that's cool. It's always a good idea to read to get a feel for it again. So yeah, just read through very carefully. I think they do a good job of stating what they're looking for, and it definitely helps to read past published work. I think it's great that they do highlight art and a lot of different forms, right, and styles, right? So Word Gathering is definitely a very diverse publication overall, it seems like. And yeah, I haven't submitted to them myself or anything like that, but yeah. So yeah, def check it out and take care, guys.